We've found millions of dollars Americans donate to charities each year never fund those charities' programs. Instead, we found huge percentages of donations going to professional fundraisers, the companies calling you to raise money for those charities. Tonight, a TV first, an interview with the head of one of the largest professional fundraising companies.
We can go down this line of questioning. It's what we talked about ahead of time, whether this was an investigative report.
An investigation into your money. Money intended to benefit abused animals, cancer patients, military veterans.
I am in a business that gets a lot of scrutiny. I have an investigative reporter sitting across from me who's trying to attack in me for the work that I do.
Tom Siegel owns a company that raises money for charities.
Come on, is that really being honest with the consumer giving?
That's not my responsibility, it's the charity's responsibility.
Reports for charity after charity show a lot of donated money goes to outside companies, not funding a charity's work or the people they're supposed to help.
I have learned the error of my ways.
Mary Ramey has a grandson with diabetes.
I sent them a donation, and that is when the floodgates opened.
That one-time donation to the American Diabetes Association turned her phone into a telefundraiser hotline and stacked her mailbox full of junk.
It was really out of control.
But Ramey's outraged to find out a significant portion of her donation likely never went to help fund research to prevent, cure, and manage the disease.
I find that horrifying.
IRS records show in 2017, nearly 35% of the money the American Diabetes Association raised went to fundraising expenses. Out of the nearly $100 million in contributions, more than $35 million paid for fundraising.
If the charity is working with vendors and their cost of fundraising is over 25%, then they either are not running a very good charity or they are working with vendors who are taking advantage of them.
Tom Siegel's company, called Donor Services Group, doesn't raise money for the American Diabetes Association, but does for dozens of nonprofits across the country. Siegel's company raised money for the D.C.-based League of Women Voters. In 2017, 45% of that nonprofit's contributions paid for fundraising, way more than the 15 to 25% Siegel says is reasonable. Each year, professional fundraisers file reports with state governments across the country, detailing the amount of money they raised and earned. Siegel's company, Donor Services, submitted this report in Massachusetts, registering a fundraising campaign for the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. When the Attorney General asked Donor Services how much of the money raised the charity would retain, Donor Services answered just 2%. But Donor Services then had a different answer to this question. If prospective contributors ask how much of their contribution will go to the charity, what will they be told? The response, not 2%, but 100.
Should your company, when you report to the Attorney General, the charity's getting 2%, should your company be telling the consumer or donating that the charity's getting 100%?
We're answering the question honestly. We don't know what percentage.
Is that honest, though?
It is, because if
then why don't you tell the Attorney General 100% too?
We do. Look at
no,
our
you
contracts.
don't. You say 2%.
Look at our contracts, which are also filed with the Attorney General's office. They say 100% of the donation goes to the charity, and we are paid a fixed fee.
Records show Donor Services receives a fixed fee, regardless of whether a caller donates. Siegel says they get paid $4.50 for every call and not a percentage of any donation.
Come on, is that really being honest with the consumer giving?
That's not my responsibility, it's the charity's responsibility. My responsibility is to...
But you're the one answering the question.
We're required to answer the question, and this charity has to sign off on that report.
We reviewed thousands of pages of these records. Hundreds of professional fundraisers submitted to state governments across the country. They reveal many of these campaigns end as a loss to charities. In fact, of the $7 billion in donated money we analyzed, 35% went to professional fundraisers. Again, well above the industry standard. In this campaign for Smile Train, Donor Services raised $58,000, but expenses totaled $115,000. So the nonprofit still had to write Donor Services a check for around $57,000.
The general assumption by what you do when you pick up that report and you cite it back to me is you are doing two things. You're saying, one, I'm ripping off the consumer, which is a relative thing depending on what you're trying to do or how you see it. But more importantly, that the charities are stupid and that the people who work at charities are stupid and they're being taken advantage of by people like me. Well, that's not true.
Siegel says a large portion of initial donations will likely go to the fundraiser. But in campaigns like this, the charity is trying to lock up repeat contributors who will pledge a regular donation schedule. When that happens, a larger percentage of any future donations would stay with the charity. But still, when asked, Donor Services tells contributors the charity receives 100%.
Why can't you tell the consumer approximately 75% of the money is going to go to the charity and 25% will go to us?
Well, you should ask the charity, but my personal view is if I told you that I need a new contributor, in order to get you to be my new contributor, a large percentage of your initial donation is going to go to cover the cost of getting you to become a contributor. Would you contribute? You might not.
But is that right that you have to be,
Depends how
you
badly-
can't be honest with the consumer to get them to give?
Ask the charities.
I'm asking you.
Well, I don't know.
You're the company making the call.
Whether I'm making the call, I'm not running the organization.
It's immoral.
Pearl Cohen spent 17 years as a telefundraiser. She's now an advocate for transparency after researching her former employer, the Share Group, which shut down.
I wanted to, raise money for good causes, save the world.
She started with a sort of idealistic outlook on her job.
So I thought that I could make a difference.
But as she peeled back the inner workings of her fundraising company, she left, disheartened and disgusted.
But it made me realize that the industry is totally deceptive.
Cohen has been pushing for changes to laws that would force fundraisers to disclose how much money goes to charities. It's an industry that's loosely regulated. These fundraisers are exempt from do not call laws in most states, and donations through a single professional fundraiser can unleash an avalanche of solicitations from other charities that have ties to that fundraising company. Siegel's company, Donor Services Group, does work for many charities that spend a reasonable amount of money, 15 to 25%, on fundraising. But he says even those charities don't want to be honest with donors.
Why are they afraid? Well, they're afraid people will stop donating.
Donor Services has worked for the veterans of foreign wars of the U.S. Many people who donate to that charity probably don't know. For every $100 they contribute, 70% of it, $70, goes to pay fundraisers like Donor Services Group.
I'm comfortable with the fact that we are not gouging our clients. I am comfortable with the fact that we are providing a service to our clients, which in the long run, if you look at any of these organizations, is beneficial to them. And I'm confident that most of the organizations we work with, the people that work there are not idiots. And so they are making financial choices to retain us for certain types of work because it's in their long-term interest.
None of the charities mentioned in this story agreed to an interview.